Could this camera be the new EOS M? And can it hold up to a BMPCC4k? Let's get into it. Now before we start, there's just something I want to address that only affects some 650Ds. That the shutter value on screen doesn't change. Even though it's being changed in the background on the Canon menu, on the Magic Lantern menu it doesn't change. So if you do get a 650D, be sure to set your shutter speed on the Canon menu only and it will stick. Okay, so this is a 650D. There's been a lot of talk going about this in the forum, and yeah, it's kind of just like the new camera what everyone's talking about, this one and a 700D, because the crop mode was actually developed on the 700D, so the 650D is quite similar in the way that it works. Now, there's a few things that I really love about this camera, which is the size obviously. It has a flip screen and the handling is just absolutely amazing. And it reminds me of my 550D, which I had way back in the day when just after I got my first EOS M actually. But it's an amazing camera. The build quality, the flip screen, everything just feels quite rugged and nice and just really nice to use. And it reminds me of modern DSLRs where you've got the separate drawer for your SD card. I really like that things are separated because sometimes on the EOS M when you're trying to fumble around in the battery drawer for your SD card, so it's nice that everything's just separated now. And we've got a nice bigger battery in here as well. Goes in nicely with a satisfying click. I actually can't believe how small this camera is, and when I hold it up next to my FX30, it is crazy small. I've forgotten just how small they are. Now, I've had some big cameras in the past, you know, the BMPCC4k, the 6K Pro, the Ursa, and all of them were massive, so I always thought the FX30 was a small camera, but it's only when I got the 650D in my hands when I realised how small it was. Having the same kind of layout as what I do on my FX30 makes handling the 650D very easy. The buttons are on the same side, obviously it has a flip screen, everything just feels so natural when you hold it. As you can see on my FX30 I rig very minimal, so it's nice to have a camera that's nice in your hand. Beautiful, beautiful design. It's kind of in between the Canon EOS M with its small body, but I actually find that small body quite awkward. So that's why we built the M Lite, because we wanted to have something that was bigger, that was, you know, more riggable, and even if you're not using stabilized lenses, you could get a nice stabilized shot. But the 650D is right in the middle. But I want to test this against one of the real OGs. In my opinion, probably one of the best, if not the best, a most affordable cinema camera on the market, and because of its DSLR shape, how could we not test it against the BMPCC4k? It's an amazing camera. The only thing I don't like about the BMPCC4k is what most people don't like. So we're not going to talk about battery life, it's just the ergonomics. The camera is so wide. You do kind of appreciate that wide form factor because you get such a large screen. But in my opinion, Blackmagic would have been much better off giving it maybe a 4-inch screen, maybe even less, and then having like a smaller form factor. The BMPCC4k is quite nice to hold, but you can see next to the 650D how a DSLR shape should and possibly could look like. But there's no denying it, the BMPCC4k is one of the most amazing cameras you can buy for your money. But next to a £120 camera, you gotta admit, it's exciting. But it's just crazy now with the advent of crop mode that I'm even testing these two cameras against each other. It's absolutely crazy. There's not many options to rig the 650D unless you get one of those awful cages that are universal. But I've got the Nikama V2 XLR mic on the top, so let's hear how it sounds. UHD 16:9 in the 1x3 crop mode, just to see if it carries on recording. And yeah, look, it's looking good so far. I've got a constant green icon. I could easily do like a talking head video with this. If you do want to go bigger, you can also get the battery grip. Now I got this cheap battery grip from eBay. I don't even know the name, it's so random, but it works very well. And it gives you a nice grip on there. And if you're the kind of person that shoots reels, it can give you a real stabilized grip on this camera. If you do want to go crazy, you can also add a monitor to the hot shoe, but I think that's a bit too far out for me. I bought this camera as a nice travel camera, something that I can keep quite small and minimal, so I think the most I would do would be to have the battery grip just to double the battery life. But even then, that's probably going to be every now and again. It was hard to decide whether I should get an MPF plate or should I get the battery grip, but I wanted to keep this nice and neat, so it was a battery grip for me. So in the studio we set up a really quick scene with just some random lights, and we set up the Blackmagic and the 650D alongside each other. Now, as I said, it's crazy that we're even comparing these two in 2023, but here we are. So with the test, I just had them in their native ISO, no fancy stuff, at the same lens. I didn't want to try to match them against each other or see which one's better. I just wanted to see if the 650D could hold up. So here's the specs that were on the camera. So this will show you all the resolution and, you know, type of codec that I recorded in. So if you want to see this in more detail, just pause it now and you can see. But let's get into the footage. So that's it guys, that's my review of the Canon 650D, and there'll be a lot more coming, so stay tuned to the channel, subscribe, and we can check out the 650D against the Canon Eos in the near future. Take care, goodbye.